Right, perfect. I think we'll get started. So I just wanted to welcome everyone to the Microsoft 365 Not-for-Profit Endpoint Management webinar. So thank you for coming today. My name is Melissa Lee Young. I'm the Head of Marketing at Generation E, and I'm really excited to have you here with us today. This session is all about helping not-for-profit organisations like yours tackle the growing challenges of cybersecurity. We know NFPs are increasingly targeted by cyber threats, often with limited resources to defend themselves. So today we're going to break down the latest risks, share insights from recent industry reports, and show how Microsoft tools like Intune and Security Copilot can really make endpoint management and security simpler, smarter, and more effective for you. So hopefully you'll leave with practical strategies to protect your organisation, streamline device management, and leverage AI-driven security so that you can focus on your mission with confidence. And our presenters today we have Sean Hartman, who is our Head of Innovation Architecture, Risk and Compliance at Generation E. Sean holds a comprehensive set of Microsoft security certifications and is also an Essential 8 certified. With deep expertise in cybersecurity for non-for-profits, Sean specialises in helping organisations understand the evolving threats landscape and implement practical, standard-based strategies to help strengthen your security posture. We also have Vimal Vamadevan, who is our Head of Identity, Devices and Threat Protection at Generation E. Vimal is highly credentialed with Microsoft security certifications and brings an extensive experience in endpoint management. Vimal's passionate about helping organisations simplify and secure their IT environments using Microsoft solutions like Intune and Security Copilot. So before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. For accessibility, closed captioning has been enabled for this session. Please feel free to post all your questions in the Q&A chat box at any time during the session. And note this session is being recorded. Both the presentation deck and the recording will be shared with you after this session. So let's get started. Over to you, Sean.
Thank you, Mel. So just from an agenda perspective, we'll have a look at some of the industry reports around the security landscape that affects us all today. Vimal will then cover off a deep dive into Microsoft Intune, principles of zero trust security. I'll wrap up with some information around Security Copilot, which is especially important given some of the latest announcements from Microsoft Ignite this week. And then we'll wrap up with some Q&A at the end. And obviously, these slides, the deck, the recording, etc., will be shared with everyone on the call post-session. So if we have a look at some of the most targeted sectors that we have inside of most targeted sectors by nation-state actors, it is important to note that even though Australia is a pretty small country in terms of population, we've actually become the 10th most targeted country for cyber attacks, which is kind of interesting. Also, not-for-profits, and in this slide we're looking at NGOs as well. So in countries outside of Australia, not-for-profits are considered non-governmental organisations or NGOs. NGOs have become the fourth most targeted sector. Now, some of the reasons for this are generally because NFP missions, especially humanitarian ones, are often at odds with the political interests of some of the nation states that we're seeing targeting this sector. NFP also tend to hold sensitive data. Now, some of that data may be related to vulnerable populations that we're either looking after. Some of that may be because of government-supplied data that is held by NFPs, and some of that data may be considered highly sensitive depending on the industry that NFP is focused on. But also NFP, unfortunately, is often considered a cyber-poor, target-rich environment. The reality is that is partly because NFPs are primarily there to support the mission that they're after, right? resources are just not available for cybersecurity. When we look at the NFP sector digital technology report for 2025, some of the interesting things that we've got from a statistical point of view, specifically as it relates to the not-for-profit sector, is that while cyber risks are constant and evolving threat, NFPs are still mostly stagnated in their cyber uplift activities. In some instances, they've actually declined or gone backwards from the 2024 report. Cybersecurity investment has declined despite this increased risk. And almost half of the NFPs that responded to this report have no documented plan to improve their cyber plan. They do not conduct regular cyber awareness training. What is even more concerning is that 1 in 6 NFPs in our region, specifically the ANZ region, experienced a cyber breach in the past 12 months. Not-for-profits are especially vulnerable. Cyber attacks are becoming more sophisticated. Bad actors are growing in number and skill. Part of the reason for that is these script kiddies that used to need a certain level of expertise to attack our most vulnerable industries no longer need that same level of skill. Part of that is because of AI, where we can create code, we can create malicious malware, etc., through some of these AI engines. Remote working and increased availability of devices connected to work has also increased that attack surface. And then maintaining multiple security tools can be complex. Let's be real, not-for-profits generally feel, if we look back at that report, not-for-profits generally feel that they just don't have the resources to invest in cyber defense. That's not just from a money and technical perspective, it's also resources on the ground. It's important to note, though, that you're not alone. The reality is identity attacks are still 99% password-based. In the last year alone, Microsoft has seen an increase of almost double the attacks per second. So we've gone from 4,000 attacks per second to 7,000. The good news is that phishing-resistant MFA does block most of these attacks. However, of serious concern is that only 1 in 5 volunteer-led NFP organizations in our region have MFA deployed in any way, shape, or form. That is seriously problematic for us. The number of organized attack groups that Microsoft is now tracking has increased 5-fold in the last year. So we're now over 1,500 organizations that Microsoft are actively tracking on a daily basis. And the most prevalent successful attack vector is still via phishing. It takes less than an hour for an attacker to access private data once they get into the environment via a phishing attack. And 90% of these attacks are from unmanaged devices. This is really what the rest of the session is about. And Vimal will cover off some of the Intune stuff moving forward. So Vimal, if you want to take it away and talk about Intune for us.
Let's jump into the next slide. Hey guys, I'm Vimal. I have over 20 years of experience in Microsoft technology. With Intune, I'm a day 0 user. That means my background is heavily technical. Now I do manage these practices, but I do have hands-on experience with Microsoft technology, especially with Intune. The day we started Intune versus what Intune is right now, I've seen the effort and the resources Microsoft has put in to make the product from where it was to what it is right now. As you saw, Sean talked about a lot of risks. All these risks, most of the time, are very irrelevant of whatever organizations you are coming from, especially for NFPs and the type of workforces NFPs has, because you have got contractors coming in, going out, you have got people who works in remote places who actually does job or work on your organization. They have become one of the most critical attack point, which is the endpoints or the devices the users uses while they're trying to access your organization data. Microsoft answered to some of these risks is Intune. Let's secure the endpoint products first and build up from there upwards. This actually gives you a baseline and upwards of protection across your endpoint fleet, thus providing you a consistent security. Microsoft Intune come in two flavors: Microsoft Intune, Microsoft Intune Suite. I don't want to downplay Microsoft Intune. That is a well-catered product. I think there are quite a lot of things every organization must enable in Microsoft Intune. Once the Microsoft Intune is implemented to that level, your next step up, or in a specific scenario where Intune Suite can actually help you. It can be, privilege management on an end device, or app management on an end device, or something more. We will actually go through that in a later slide. Let's talk about Microsoft Security Copilot. AI is like a big thing this year. I think everybody is aware. What Microsoft Security Copilot gives you? What is the benefit for an MSP? So the challenges Sean talked about earlier, it is like, we are stretching the resourcing. NFP's priorities are to help or do an organization aimed activity, and the IT is there to help them, not the other way around. So your funding, your resourcing, it's all comes to play. The AI security helps this technical question or a general question to be converted into a normal question and then ask AI. AI will evaluate that question and give you the answer, which you can actually further expand. Sean is doing an entire slide and presentation on Defender for AI and how AI helps organization at later stage, but I just want to set the scene. So in a nutshell, it just saves time. Let's move on to the next slide and see what the lifecycle management looks like. So like I said, NFPs or any organization, there is a lifecycle management for your end user devices. End user device can be Android, Mac, iPhone, Windows, any devices. Like every devices basically need to come and say to your organization, I want to register. That is called enrollment in a technical term. So basically we register the device and say, yep, I want to be part of your organization. I want to access your organization data. Your first condition is let's register, let's enroll, let's get it going. Organization respond back by saying, yep, you registered. We have got some stock set policies we want to push so that we can secure your organization devices. And that actually gives you the baseline. The baseline is where all the risk can be evaluated from that baseline upwards. So baseline, actually, every organization, it is different. For an NFP, it might be different. For another organization, it might be different. From NSP perspective, frontline workers, contractors, they're very critical because sometimes they remote location. And at the remote location, what happens is, you do not have that kind of a capability where the IT support can physically be present to help you guys. So by pushing these kind of configuration set, it actually allow the organization to help you guys. Then go into the protection bit. Protection bit is we have got some policies, just like before, we predefine it, which actually allow you to protect these devices. Every NFP has BYOD and maybe organization on devices. Intune is by default designed to cater for both these device stuff. That is another advantage of using Intune, where your organization on the device or it is the user who is on the device. If the user is owning the device, we can actually successfully deploy policies so that the organization data is protected in that environment. Now come to an important bit of retiring these devices. like old days, we cannot just take a phone, switch it off, throw it to the bin. Most of the time, it doesn't work that well because then now we have got a lot of tools and other capability to extract data or information from these devices. So we need to securely delete the organization data before we retire devices. For a company-owned device, we have got a capability in Intune which actually will allow you to wipe the device, start it fresh. You can give it to your end user. But for a BYOD device, that's where it comes into play, where we can wipe your organization data only without touching the user's contact on the normal side, user's photo, anything related to the user. We are securing it, we are securely erasing the data, and we are ensuring that we are giving the device back to the end user. Let's see in the next slide, what is Intune look like from an integration perspective. Okay. Intune is not a MDM. This is not just an MDM. I think most of us who joined the call today know that Intune is an ecosystem of product which Microsoft provide, which integrate into a MDM platform. MDM means mobile device management, guys. Or end user device management, which can be any of your device type. What does this brings for an organization? What is the benefit for you? Because Intune is an MDM and it actually hooks up to Microsoft Entra, Microsoft Defender, Microsoft Priva, Microsoft Office 365 app, it is a single pane of glass where you can actually manage all these products. Once you can actually do that, basically it reduces still risk for you. It has got built-in security, improve your security posture by consolidating a lot of product like this into a single product suite. You actually get money saving, which is actually, help you expand without extra cost to your infrastructure. So I'm an engineer from heart and still am, I believe. I've set up some class customer organization where what happens is we set it up, then you need to manage that organization once in, 3 months, just to go and have a look, spend half a day tweaking it here, there. So that's what Intune gives you. And once you set it up right, once you have the framework, it actually gives you that framework. You just need tweaking, which actually will allow you to manage your entire organization. Imagine your engineering pool, they will be having a field day. If it is completely configured, they will only need to actually support it on an ad hoc basis. But you need to think about it when you set it up. Once you set up, it's all good. In the next slide, what we will look at is how does this cloud journey for different endpoints look like? As you can see, cloud native endpoint journey comprehend of multiple elements. I want to call out a couple of key items in here so that you can actually relate to it in your organization. Identity. In the old days, we used to have Active Directory. I think everybody knows. Now everybody use AD Connect or Cloud Sync tool to sync it to Entra ID, and you use hybrid identities. This is a basic requirement for going to Intune. So that is part of your cloud journey. This can be an Entra ID only cloud journey where you can ditch complete Active Directory, but just being realistic, I think I've seen organization doing it 98 or 97%. It's hard to get rid of that tiny last bit, but we will see what it is in the rest of the journey. In cloud file and services, what happens is, especially for NFPs, you might have a user pool who just uses F3, FPI licensing. You want to move these users into F3, FPI. Your first task you need to do is moving your on-premises file share to either SharePoint then split that into hot and cold tier of product. Cold one or archive one, move it to somewhere, and the hot one you need to actually provide them in SharePoint Online so that the apps which comes along with F3 and F4 licenses can actually access the files online. Next bit is modern device management. As I said, Intune is a modern device management. This is one of the key component where either you can actually have a synced object from AD to be working along with Intune, and Intune is only used as an endpoint device, or you can actually use it as a platform where you can actually just have cloud only devices and then you use that. The next bit is security, endpoint servicing, and device management. These are all components of Microsoft Intune capabilities, which I will talk in another slide. So, and I'm actually going to talk about virtualized endpoints. So Microsoft now actually in the cloud journey gives you M365 desktops. I know I'm a user who has set up several virtual desktops in my lifetime, and I'm a user who has set up several Azure virtual desktops, and I've actually also worked with M365 desktops, which actually gives you your F3, F1 frontline workers and a capability to jump in and access your on-premises legacy apps so that you can still keep the licensing valid for these guys and then give them the capability to work on any on-premises apps. So these workstations are completely managed by Microsoft. So Microsoft update the OS and Microsoft update the Office 365 app. And these apps can be onboarded using latest Intune onboarding mechanism where we can actually tick some policies and process, and then as the user logs in, these devices get automatically onboarded into Intune, and you can manage the configuration using Intune. What does all comes to? Basically, all these capabilities comes to a zero trust framework. Security is a concern we have in this nowadays. It's a very major issue everybody is facing. As Sean said, that organizations are getting compromised once or twice in a year. Not same organization, but still. Zero trust framework actually gives you a framework which actually says it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what device you are coming from. As long as you can prove that you are the right user, right device, you're coming from a secure environment and you are authorized to access the environment, you can access the resources. So the cloud native endpoint journey actually is built on the zero trust. So if you follow a basic layer of framework, you can actually make sure that your environment is protected from a bare minimum perspective. If there are things which we can go above and beyond, but from a bare minimum perspective. Let's look at Intune key callouts in the next slide, where I have some favorite components in Intune. I use it extensively. Nowadays, my guys in my team actually deliver these components very extensively. Look, most of you might know some of this, may not know. So I'll just try to actually give you a summary of my favorite items. One is auto patch. I am from the WSS day of updating devices. Okay, I know some might know who are from my generation and previous generation, but I used to hate it because you cannot say that the update is getting installed on a regular basis. Sometimes the device gets missed. Reporting on it is horrible, which actually increases the risk for an organization, especially for an organization where the work fleet is spread across in so many different places. It's impossible, and it is very bound to network boundaries. Microsoft answer is Autopatch. Autopatch is really good. Autopatch actually does Windows update for business onto all the Intune managed devices. based on an automation. You can set up tiers on the automation where you have got the pilot group, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. You can set up policies and then Microsoft pushes updates based on that. Microsoft Intune has a reporting module in the report session for AutoPatch, which actually specifically show you how many devices got installed, what got enrolled, what is the timeline we are looking at all the devices getting patched, the visibility, that's by reducing risk and that's by increasing the security on the device. That's what AutoPatch does. And an admin, if I was looking at me 5 or 6 years before, I would have saved me a lot of time because the amount of time we spend on making sure Windows fleets are up to date without interfering with the configuration, that is a dream come true. And I think with AutoPatch, we are getting very closer. AutoPatch allow you to update Windows feature update, security update, Office 365 app update, and the device driver update. So that's the key call out of me regarding AutoPatch. AutoPatch actually now has a capability called hot patching, which is part of Windows 11 25 H2 update. If anybody has heard of hot patching, I do not know. Maybe they have because it's very, very cool. So as a person, if you are not into IT and IT related thing and you're not worried about security, your primary day job is something else, every Tuesday, Wednesday, you get prompted for Windows Update, which is a security update Microsoft release on Tuesdays for securing the device. Normally, what used to happen is this app will prompt you, I want to install, I want to install, and then you just keep on pushing because you'll be working on a document. Once the deadline comes, the app just gets installed or the update just gets installed. And then you need to restart the device and the device just gets restarted if you don't manually restart them. Hot patch actually solves that for us. Hot patch now gets installed without restarting the computer. That is really cool. So you are expecting for a major update, you need to restart the device, but all the regular security update get installed from 25 H2 version of Windows 11 onwards without restarts. Now comes proactive scripts. Everybody know partial script, everybody will know bat files and other version of scripting. Microsoft actually introduced a very awesome way of, deploying a script by checking a status of it. How many times we would have actually felt like, you have to deploy a script, but only when something happens. And in Active Directory days, we used to have group policies where you can deploy script. We can deploy script using a scheduled task based on a certain type, a certain timelines. But proactive scripts actually checks. And did that scenario happen? If the scenario happens, do something else to fix the scenario. One of the major thing I use this for is patching every single open source application on your workstations. So if you are really good at scripting, you can actually use a inbuilt capability in all the Windows 11 devices called winget. Winget actually is an open source GitHub repo, which is deployed as part of Microsoft Windows 11 device OS, which allow you to actually update your open source applications. Now you'll be asking, it's open source and the repo for winget is, community run. Yes, that is one place where community run GitHub repo is used. But if you are really keen on it, you can actually go and purchase the Intune Suite license. And that's where Microsoft Enterprise App Management comes in. Microsoft also makes Win32 apps of all this open source and keep them updated from your enterprise apps. So now I'm trying to relate to you to where Microsoft Intune Suite comes in play. Microsoft Intune Suite also comes into play where you have got an on-premises application you develop for a mobile app, but you want to deploy that app on a BYOD device. That's where Microsoft Intune Suite comes into play, where you can deploy an app and the app will have a secure tunnel inbuilt so that when you open the app, it will connect to the on-premises and then give the app access to whatever database it needs to be. Another set of capability Microsoft Intune has is called access policies. I believe some or most of the members over here will have an IT team where you have got a BAU, business as usual, which is your normal support desk team, and then a level 2 or a level 3. The amount of time the level 3 spend on managing and updating policies, and the amount of time for the support to catch up with the technology and self-develop is so high. Access policies allow support to go and do the research, create policies, and on certain policy level, it requires approval from a higher level 2 or level 3 person to validate and says, I created this policy, I want to deploy it. Your level 2 goes and reviews it, says, yep, approve, deploy. It allows you to deploy. How awesome is it? It is an Intune product allow your department to learn at the same time, keep the quality of the update, and make sure that the workload for the L3 or L2 person reduce, because your help desk who is learning actually implementing it, and the L2 or L3 person reviewing and declining or approving the updates. So a training mechanism is actually in place too. That's what access policies help. Let's move on to the next slide, which we talk about a very interesting topic called passwords. A lot of us love our passwords. I think 12 to 16 character passwords, bare minimum. Passwords are such complex. Nowadays, password requirements are 12 to 16 to 18 character password with random set of passwords. I used to literally, don't like it to change my password every 2 months, 3 months, and then remember the new password. Windows Hello is Microsoft authentication, which actually allows from a Windows device to authenticate without a password. Windows Hello's version of similar version is called passwordless, which can be used from an authenticator app where you don't need to type in a password. It actually sends a notification and a number to approve the notification, and it allows you to log in. Windows allows you to capture your face metrics and stores on the device. It never leaves your device to Microsoft infrastructure. So when I was an engineer, when I was talking to a lot of organizations, people used to have the impression that, we don't want to save our face, we don't want to save our fingerprints, we don't want to leave anything with Microsoft infrastructure. But, that's a myth. First of all, they don't capture your complete face or photo. Yes, I understand normal users might not understand, but what you can say is whatever it is capturing, it is storing it on the device you are using. Once the device verify it is you, it's just telling Microsoft that, yep, it's a user who logged in, and you can now approve access to whatever resource they are granting. Look, we will have a lot of questions regarding this. I'm more than happy to take questions in the Q&A session, but for the time being, I will hand over to much interesting topic, security for Copilot, to Sean. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Vimal. I don't know about you, but I am certainly no Custo query language expert. When we think about device management and security in general, Vimal and his team are experts at creating scripts and managing scripts and creating environments for the management of security across our infrastructure. What if we could bring a GPT-powered natural language to investigate and respond to security incidents? As I said, I'm certainly no script genius myself. When I consider my role at Generation E, as we look at what it means for us to manage risk in our organization, we manage risk for data, for identities, for endpoints. Security Copilot is essentially that security AI assistant that has built-in skills using Microsoft's vast expertise across that security ecosystem. What has just recently been announced at Ignite is that all organizations that are licensed for E5 are now going to get security AI built into those experiences, right? These experiences are embedded inside of Defender, Entra ID, Purview for data security and compliance, Intune for endpoint management, and even include some third-party integrations with Canary, JamF, and others. So watch the space. I think we're going to see a lot more coming. Now, why is this relevant? We already know that AI is a disruptive technology. And the reality is there are a lot of bad actors who are using AI to create deepfake technology. And this is even more so when we look at phishing websites and we look at malicious scripts and embedded commands that are inside of some of these scripts. What it does for us, we know that our teams are stretched thin. It allows us to use natural language to cut through the noise when we're doing investigation. It provides guidance for remediation, right? With Security Copilot agents, we can now even automate some of these activities. So think of things like auto triage of incidents that are of low risk. What it also does, it provides recommended prompts within the context of the platform that you're working in to help us get started, right? There's built-in multi-step sequencing using prompt books. And if we think about even something like gaining access to a script, putting it into Security Copilot and asking Security Copilot to analyze the script for any potential malicious code that might be living inside of there, such as any malware, etc. And unlike traditional AI models that we might use today, so I can jump onto ChatGPT and say, hey, give me some information on CVE XXX. So CVE, which is the vulnerability, the known vulnerability database. In many cases, some of those tools have to be pre-trained to know that that data exists, where Security Copilot is updated constantly. So how does Copilot security for endpoint come into play? Specifically, if we think in the context of endpoint management, think about things like device information and troubleshooting. We've all had to manage configuration drift at some point. We know it's quite challenging. And so one of the things we have to be able to do is, how do I quickly gather information, device states, and troubleshoot information? As we said in the previous slide, we have the advent of AI that is kind of having to keep us on our toes. We need an AI tool to help respond at the speed that we are getting, that these threats are coming in. So things like, what is the difference between working device A and non-working device B, right? How are you going to manage configuration drift? They're actually quite difficult to troubleshoot and manage. It even provides insights into Microsoft's 365 cloud PCs, right? So things like asking Copilot for security, what is the connection quality like? How do I manage license optimization? How do I manage performance issues when I'm connecting to these platforms? We think about policy and configuration management. Sometimes some of these policies, there are thousands and thousands of settings all over the place across Intune. They're not easy to digest. They're not easy to see. And unless you know what you're doing, it can be pretty challenging. Where Security Copilot helps is, first off, looking at some of the existing policies that we might have deployed, asking Copilot to summarize exactly what that policy does, which users and groups they affect. And in some scenarios is, tell me where there are policy conflicts, right? I've created a new policy. It doesn't seem to be applying. Is there an existing policy that is conflicting with one that I've just created? And then from a data exploration perspective, think about an admin saying, show me all the devices that are non-compliant in my organization today, or just show me devices that are not running the latest Windows version. Show me devices that have not been patched in the last 30 days. That type of thing, right? We need some way to use natural language to help us understand what is actually going on behind the scenes. Security Copilot across these different technologies and platforms. It's available just about today for most people. Microsoft is rolling this out as we speak. It's intended that within the next couple of months, if you're an E5 customer or some kind of 5 SKU, you should be seeing these light up very soon. Microsoft will provide 30 days notice of when these are becoming available. And so with that, I don't think we'll delve too much more into this. The slides are going to be available. The deck will be available to everybody. And I'd like to throw this over and see if there are any questions that have come up inside of the Q&A.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Vimal. Really great overview of endpoint management. Really good to hear. So we do have a couple of questions. So from Natalia, we've got, how do we manage contractors who use the company's computers if they are already registered in their MDM? Oh, Vimal, you're on mute.
Sorry, guys. Look, I already started typing answers in there as a response, but verbally saying, look, Windows 11 does allow multiple organization to be added, though it is MDM managed. We can actually use to add these devices and then send the status of what the device posture is when you're authenticating to your organization. You can use that, but there is much better, mature way available, which is called cross-tenant access. How many of you have heard about cross-tenant access? I do not know. What happened in cross-tenant access is you have an entry ID here, which is organization A. You have contractors comes from organization B. You can actually say, if the contractor is coming from this organization, trust the organization contractor, and you will trust the organization security, the contractor's organization security, by saying, I trust the device compliance, I trust the security the organization provide, and then you can actually let the organization, that contractor, log into your system. So once you have cross-tenant sync and cross-tenant organization trusting is enabled and configured, you can actually bypass that. But there's quite a lot of contractual agreement you need to go through before, so that you need to ensure that organization B for the contractor actually comply with all your requirements. They need to sign a waiver, and then once it happens, you can just technically set up. I've already put Microsoft link to cross-tenant access in that response. You can actually click through and then read a little bit more, and then I think at the end of this meeting, Mel will actually give a contact us link where you can actually shoot more questions to Mel, and then we might be able to come and individually cater based on your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll send that link out. And look, I know you have popped an answer in, but is it possible to deploy auto patch for non-Microsoft apps in a regular basis?
Yes, of course. So in my slide, I think I would have actually talked about key highlights. And I actually said that one of my favorite components is proactive remediation scripts or Microsoft scripting tool. I use that for most of our vendors. You just need to be a little bit good at writing PowerShell script, which actually use a tool called winget, which is also part of Microsoft Windows 11 computers. Every Windows 11 computer has winget. If you guys don't know about winget, and if you are technically curious about it, go open up command prompt, PowerShell or terminal, sorry guys, and write winget list or winget space update. It will show you all the app updates on your computer. Winget is run by a community run, it is a Microsoft repo, but it is run, apps are published by community. You can do that. Or if you are cautious about using though it is a Microsoft repo, but it's community run and you want to make sure that you don't use anything unwanted, you can actually go and purchase Microsoft Intune Suite license. That comes with an enterprise app, which is a Microsoft version of similar, but what they do is they package all these apps into a Win32 and then deploy all the update continuously to all your apps. So you have got two options in basically general Intune. The people who don't want to invest in Microsoft Intune Suite can actually use the proactive script. If you can actually invest and put that extra bit of money into Intune Suite, you have the enterprise grade version of app. And currently I checked, they have around 3,000 app in the list. Might be wrong, but these are the two options for you.
Correct. And then there was another question from Gurpreet about how should we manage Intune enrolled devices that use device-based licensing, like Intune Plan 1 device, instead of A5 user licenses,
Yep. Cool.
Especially when these devices are shared by multiple students throughout the day?
So normally we call these shared device. I think we also call this shared device. We've got scenario in some places where they've got, kiosk devices which are standing over there. What we normally do is when we onboard these devices, when it is especially Windows device, what happens is Autopilot has a capability called tagging on onboarding. Once you tag them, you tag these devices as shared device. Then you use that tag to create a dynamic list. Then you assign the device license to that dynamic list. That way, every device of yours will get that device license automatically assigned. Not done. From that moment, you need to push shared device configuration policy onto these devices so that they can be managed as a shared device. So it's just a kiosk device, and it's just used across the org.
Great. Okay. And then in terms of licensing information, Dan asks, how does Microsoft plan to support nonprofits not on an e-license for Copilot security?
I wish I had an easy answer for that. Bear in mind, this announcement was literally made this week
Sorry,
at
guys,
Ignite.
I dropped off.
No, that's fine. I'm just answering a question on how Microsoft plans to support non-profits
hear
for
me?
e-license. Yep.
Yes, we can hear you, Vimal.
So how Microsoft plans to support not-for-profits, I couldn't tell you today. In fact, even some of the licensing around Security Copilot is quite complex at the moment because it works on what they call secure compute units. And so it's similar to a kind of pay-as-you-go model or pay-as-you-use model. It's quite complex to understand what those compute units look like today. More information is likely going to be coming out in the near term. So this announcement's just been made, hasn't been fully deployed to organizations yet. But for those with E5, the intent is that there will be bundled secure compute units that are part of your E5 SKU. So depending on how many licenses you have, you will get a bucket of secure compute units that you can consume for Security Copilot. And again, that's dependent on how many licenses you have. So the more licenses you have, the more compute units you will have access to on a monthly basis.
Perfect. And then Amy did have a question about what's the pricing for the Intune suite. Now I have popped in a link to the nonprofit pricing. So just to let you know, if you click on the link, you can have a look at the pricing, but there is a good discount for non-for-profits. Typically, depending on what plan you choose, it can be discounted from $12 to $2 to $3 per user. Discounts from $6 down to $1.50 to $2. But just check out the link and you can have a look at the pricing. And then we've got another question from Lyle. So Vimal, are you online?
Yep, I'm back.
Okay. So you mentioned virtual desktops that provide secure access to tenant systems and software, joining that device to your Entra. So when joining for a virtual desktop, can you still use conditional access to measure the device's compliance and block access to less secure devices?
Yes, definitely. I will not recommend the solution which does not go through conditional access and compliance policies. Yes, so Microsoft Virtual Desktop requires certain relaxation on a web URL, but the moment you click sign in, it actually evaluates the user's sign in and the access requirements. And thus, they need to go through the whole compliance circle where they are coming from. Normally, what we have actually seen is some of our non-profit organization predominantly give access to users just with MFA. So no device, no BYOD onboarding. If you are a contractor, you log into a logged down virtual desktop and you access it from there. That moment, basically what happens is we have to actually trust just the MFA.
Apologies, we'll just say
I'm not sure who that is.
Yep.
This person, that's all right. I'll mute that participant. Okay, great. All right, that's all the questions we have for now. Sean and Vimal, is there any kind of final summary points that you just wanted to
I will actually say, look, if any of you are already deploying Intune, or at some certain stage of the life with Intune journey, basically, I will say, evaluate your Intune, do a 6-monthly reevaluation of your Intune setup, because there are protection and the capability to protect device types are improving, and you just need to reevaluate your current setup every 6 months, and then you will find 1 or 2 improvements. Basically, from a perspective of CIO, CTO level, they will ask us, common sense questions. You will have answers for that common sense question from a technical perspective. And that's a pace Microsoft is actually helping us improve the product. So definitely reevaluate the setup at that level.
We did have one more question, just a follow-up on Windows 365 PC and conditional access. What if location is disabled in the browser?
Look, unknown browser location, we can actually block it. So in the same conditional access policy, we are telling MFA, it need to be a non-country, which you need to say. So basically VPN proxies and all those services, which is unclassified, especially disabled browsers, will not be allowed through. We can block it. And so answer to the question is, we will have to educate the user when we onboard them, just to make sure that they use a browser instance which can actually share the location service, so we can detect which country it is coming from. So conditional access policy will automatically allow them based on your allow or deny rule. That's a common thing we also face here. So.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much for presenting today, Sean and Vimal, and thank you everyone for joining us. Just on this final page, you can visit us on our website and have a look at more of the solutions and services that we have. You can scan the QR code and contact us. And then we've got some links there as well. So thank you very much. I will share around this recording and the deck after this session. And then, yes, please contact us with any further questions that you've got. Happy to work through with you any queries or questions that you may have. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.